I've now made this lemon pound cake 5 times in the last 3 days. I've learned a lot, and I'd like to share some best practices if you would like to tackle the recipe that lives on my link tree. My desired outcome is a golden exterior crust and a tender crumb. It should have a tight grain, be very moist, sweet, and rich, and it should bake with a nice swell and a split right down the center. Originally, pound cakes were made with 4 equal ingredients: butter, flour, sugar, and eggs. They were much more dense and very labor-intensive. This cake is not difficult to make, but you should pay attention to every detail. It begins with room temperature eggs being whipped on medium with slowly added sucrose and salt until the eggs are at the ribbon stage. The air cells that you create in the bowl should be small and stable. King Arthur cake flour is unbleached and it's 9.4% protein. When you slowly add the sucrose and salt to the eggs, you are introducing them in a way that creates a cohesion over time. Sifting cake flour with the baking powder 2 times does the exact same thing. It begins to bring the 2 ingredients together. It lightens the cake flour, which can tend to clump because it has more starch in it than the all-purpose flour has. And it's best to zest the lemon directly into the flour in this particular recipe. While you never want to zest directly into a deli cup or into a bowl, you always want to zest over an ingredient. You wouldn't want to zest over the sucrose and egg mixture in this case because the acid that lives in the essential oils of the lemon zest will pre-coagulate the eggs. You will know when the ribbon eggs are ready when you drizzle the batter and the ribbons that are on top of the batter remain and don't dissipate for 3 to 4 seconds. You don't want to over whip them because you want to leave the proteins that live in the eggs a little room to expand. If you go all the way, when they go in the oven, they won't be able to stretch any further. You must turn down the mixer to a low speed when adding half the fats, the heavy cream and the butter, followed by half of the dries, the other half of the wet fats, and then finishing with the dries. To prevent over-mixing, I stop and scrape frequently. The goal is to preserve the air bubbles you have worked into the ribbon eggs and to not overmix the gluten-producing flour. The baking powder begins to react as soon as it hits the moisture, so you should work quickly getting the batter in the pan, painting a line of melted butter to create the split, and then putting the cake in the oven as quickly as possible. The sweet spot for my oven is 325. At 20 minutes, I open the oven door and release the moisture that is built up in the oven so that during the second half of baking, the pound cake can release its moisture and dry out so that it has a nice, stable structure and golden brown crust. It's important to simple syrup your pound cake while it is hot. So after a few minutes of cooling, you can either dunk the cake in a container of simple syrup that is cool or paint the simple syrup on very neatly but thoroughly. This cake is designed to be wrapped tightly and aged for 2 days. The lemon flavor intensifies, the egginess dissipates, and if by magic the crumb transforms into the perfect pound cake. This one recipe could be altered for size, shape, flavor, and packaging indefinitely. I love the zesty lemon and the exterior crunch, and I look forward to sharing the results and answering all of your questions this Sunday live at noon.